Hello and welcome to our home here in Brittany in northwest France. If you're here for the very first time, and well you might be, you are most welcome. My name is Jane, my husband Michael is behind the camera. We are early retirees, debt and mortgage free, British and living in France. And every Wednesday we invite you into our home for a midweek money chat. And this week's midweek money chat is about how we set up our budget for the year ahead. So as the title says, it's how I plan my annual budget, expenses and savings. Now you watching this might have a regular job, a regular income. Your pay may be the same absolutely every month. Your tax is taken out every month, your national insurance, your pension is all taken out every month. And you know month by month how much money you will earn. However, you may be like Mike and I, you may be self-employed and have a variable income. Now I'm going to share with you something that we do for our budget is we budget on our worst possible month. We can't budget on an average because some months we won't have the average amount, we will be under. So we do that on our worst possible month. Now, the other thing that we do with our budget and our expenses and our savings, some of those items, and I'm going to go into detail with that, we have the complete amount for the year. We then divide that by 12 and save that each month. And I know that might sound a bit strange because you might think, well, at the beginning of the year, we are at zero. I would like you to imagine a water tank, a water cistern. The water will go down, the water will go up. And that is exactly the same with the money in your pot that you need to save for the things you need to buy and save for and your expenses over the year. So that is why we have and we recommend having no spend months. In those no spend months, we buy food, we put fuel in the car and we pay our bills, but we don't buy anything else in those months. Of course, if something crops up and we've saved for it previously and we've planned for that in that month, but there's no little extras. We wouldn't have our hair cut in that month. We wouldn't book an eye test in that month. We wouldn't book the dentist in that month unless a tooth fell out or something extraordinary happened. So there we go. It's our expenses for the year divided by 12 and those savings are made every month. We make sure that the tank of money is being topped up. Some months the tank will go down, then we'll have a no spend month and we top the tank up again. And we also make sure, sorry I'm looking at my notes here, that we have those no spend months to keep that tank topped up. Okay, I'm now going to break this down into different sections of our budget, our savings and expenses for the year. And the first piece of advice that I take myself, that I'm going to share with you, is you need to have a diary system, you need to have a wall calendar, a good visual aid to help you. If you're somebody who is welded to your mobile phone and your diary and you're online, that is the time you're going to start populating your calendar now, because it's not an easy job to do. You're going to get your diary out. We like a day-by-day diary planner. We like to section it every single day and think, what do we need to do and what's coming up? But I tell you what, good old-fashioned wall calendar is as good a place to start as any. So that's what you're going to do first of all. Get yourself a diary, get yourself a wall planner, set up your online diary, but that's the first thing you are going to do. first section I'm going to call family. And within family, there's the things that we know come up every single year. The birthdays, they need to go in the calendar, don't they? Christmas, that needs to go on the calendar. Mother's Day, Father's Day, any of those significant dates and events. And you then need to think of how many of those individual pots do I need to save up for? We came up with 9. When we totaled up birthdays, Christmas, Mother's Day, Father's Day, all of those, we came up with 9. We then came up with the amount we would spend on each of them. We made it equal, just because we liked it that way. We totaled that amount, we divided that by 12. So we therefore did that, and it is something that you can do too. So there's your first aspect, Christmas and birthdays, get it on the calendar. You can do these all in advance. A great thing to do is go out and buy yourself a pack of birthday cards, the beginning of the year, and then you can literally write those down and have them in a box and ready. And you know the birthday's coming up, you save that amount of money, and that's the time to spend it. The next section on that diary, on that calendar, which affects your budget, your expenses and your savings, is your work calendar. When are you working? When are you on holiday? If you're British, you're European, you're going to be having 6 weeks holiday a year, plus bank holidays. When are those? Those are the times. Will you be going away on holiday? Will you be using that time to do some DIY at home? Will you be going to visit family members? Do you have any commitments within those times? Get those on the calendar right now. Those are the times that are going to cost you more money. You may just have plans at that time to stay home, but nonetheless, they are going to financially affect you one way or another. So get them on the plan already. And if, for example, you've planned that you're going to have 3 weekends away, what's your budget for that? If you've planned you're going to have 2 weeks holiday, what's your budget for that? Add it up, divide it by 12. That is the amount of money you need to set aside every month. Now the next big section and big budget section for anybody with children is children. So this is a really important thing to get on there. Get onto your children's school websites and make sure that you have all of the dates written onto that calendar, because they are going to affect you financially. Of course, first of all are all the term dates and the dates of the school holidays and school closures and school training, because on those days you may have to factor in extra costs for childcare. In the school holidays, you're going to be factoring in extra cost for food because they're at home eating you out of house and home. You're going to be factoring in holiday clubs. You're going to be factoring in when you're going to buy them school uniform, how you're going to work out their shoes costs, their school bags, their PE kit, then the extracurricular activities. And you might be thinking to yourself, wow, that's a big thing to do, and can I do it in advance? School uniform, all part figures are always the best to go for. Get on, for example, the Marks and Spencer's website, look at school clothing, look at the size up, think they need 4 pairs of trousers, 5 shirts, 10 sets of underpants, 10 sets of socks. Work that figure out over the year, how much you're going to spend, how much you're going to spend on your children's clothings, clubs and activities, and set that amount aside every single month. It's probably every penny you've got, so that's quite an easy one to work out if you've got children, but it gives you the way to set your budget so there are no surprises. And even if you have children, if you think to yourself, they probably go to 10 birthday parties a year, and each time they go, if you think to yourself you can put aside £5 for each small token gift and a card, it's still an amount of money you need to put aside every single month for those birthday parties. So it's not suddenly, Mum, can I have? It's something that you've thought of in advance. Now, the next aspect that we need to set money aside for every single month is health. Country by country, of course, this is different. In the UK, you still have to pay for your eye tests, you still have to pay for your glasses. Most people are paying to have their teeth cleaned, checked, teeth filled, for example. Even with the NHS subsidising that, there is still a small amount of money to pay. Here in France, we have a similar subsidy, but we still have to pay some money. There's no good suddenly thinking, I'm not feeling very well, it's €25 to see the doctor, and then thinking like, well, where's the money? You have a body, you have eyes, you have teeth, you're going to get a cold, all of these things. You need to set aside a nominal amount of money every single month for those health issues that can arise, for having new glasses every 2 years, for having your teeth cleaned and scaled. And you might be thinking to yourselves, well, how can I work out that? Pop online, go and look on the Specsavers website, go and look on the Vision Express website, find out how much an eye test costs, how much an average pair of varifocal lenses cost, for example, and frames. You might think, so, well, how do I know how much is it going to cost at the dentist? Look on some dental websites. What are their fixed prices, for example? How much is the average filling? How much is the average x-ray? How much is the average checkup? Having that amount of money set aside each month means at the end of the year, you're not suddenly thinking, ouch, I've got a toothache and I haven't got the money. You will have the money set aside, you've been saving. Health is probably the most important thing to put money aside for every single month. Now, the next section that I've titled is called The Car, or it could be the cars if you've got more than one. Cars are going to need an annual service. And again, you can find out from your local garage, how much will my annual service cost? And then you divide it by 12 and save that each month. If you need new tyres, you're not going to necessarily need new tyres every year, but you might, depending on the mileage of your cars. Here, for example, in France, if you have a blowout on one tyre, back tyre, both back tyres have to be done, or both front tyres have to be done. And I put aside a nominal amount of money of €200 a year in case of needing new tyres. Divide that by 12, that's how much I save each month. You might have to be putting aside money each month for car repairs. We put aside a nominal amount of money. You may also be thinking not just in 1 year, but we have a 5-year saving program for our next car. So if we think we'll sell the next car for $5,000, we need another $5,000 to add to it. Do you see what I mean? You're thinking then about the nominal amount of money you are budgeting each month to go into savings for a new car, because sadly, they do not last forever. I have 2 cute fluffy dogs, but even the fluffiest, cutest dogs in the world still need grooming and still occasionally need to go to see the vet. Now, you could set aside an amount of money each month for pet insurance, should you wish. We don't. We choose to set aside a nominal amount of money each month to put into savings to go to the vet. Vets are considerably cheaper here in France. We also set aside a nominal amount of money each month because every 3 months my dogs go to be clipped. They are bichon frisé, their head doesn't fall out, but it does mean to say it all has to be clipped off. And yes, I know I could do it myself, but when I've tried, I've made a proper hash of it. The dogs have looked dreadful and I just don't think it's fair on them. So if you have pets, you might need to think to yourself, well, I go on holiday every year. They go to the kennels, or they go to carers, or I have dog sitters. So you need to be thinking about that amount of money over the year, divide it by 12 and save that each month. We've got a pattern here, haven't we? Total amount of money divided by 12, that's how much you set aside each month. Now the next section is tax and taxation. Most people in the UK and most people here in France, their taxes are deducted monthly by the employer and popped off to the government. But it's not that case for everybody everywhere. Those of us who are self-employed in every country that you live in, there will be a time of year in which you will submit your tax returns. And then there will be a time of the year when you will receive your tax bill for your income tax. And year on year, if your income is similar, you can work out similarly how much it's going to cost you. I would always say err on the higher amounts, because it's better to save too much than too little. And again, that's the amount you need to save, divide it by 12, you put that amount of money aside every month. On top of income tax, of course, there is the taxation on our houses. I think just about every country in the world has some kind of tax on the residence that you live in. Ours here is broken down into 3 small taxes: taxe foncière, taxe d'habitation, and also a tax for the rubbish. It comes to just under 600 euros a year. So I save 600 euros a year. I break that down, that's 50 euros a month. It's about the same again for my income tax. So I know I'm saving 50 euros a month for my income tax and 50 euros a month for my house taxes. So it's the same again, it's the total amount divided by 12, put that amount of money aside each month. Now, if you own a home, something is going to go wrong, isn't it? Something's going to break. Something's going to come to the end of its life. The vacuum cleaner will suddenly stop working. It's beyond economic repair. And if you think to yourselves in your house, what are the absolutely essential things you must have? You must have a boiler. When we were in the UK, we always had boiler insurance, but it didn't cover replacement of the boiler. It very rarely does. It covered repairs, but what if it couldn't be repaired? So we know when we were there quite a few years ago, a new boiler can cost you about £1,000. It is something that you'd want to have sitting in an account somewhere if your boiler's coming to the end of its life. It's a normal amount of money that you might think, well, in a year's time, in 2 years' time, we are going to need a new boiler. So you're taking that amount of money, you might be dividing it by 24. You might be dividing that by 36, but you are putting that money aside. Something in your house that might be very important to you might be your washing machine, your tumble dryer, your cooker, your hob, your fridge freezer. All of these are around £600, 600 euros. There is something that you need to have in a fund somewhere. So it would be sensible, wouldn't it, to think that that could happen this year. I do need to divide that figure by 12 and put that money aside each month. Now, you might think to yourself, well, I'm never going to afford a new one, but you would need to put aside over the year £100, 200 euros, for example, that could get you through with something secondhand that you could buy. And still, whatever it is in your house, it is going to go wrong. It will need replacing. And that money won't just appear when it does. It is something that you need to be dividing by 12 and putting that money aside every single month. Now, if you watched my last video, that you will know that Mike and I have a sort of budget review meeting at the end of the year. We evaluate how our budget went. We looked at the aspects of what went well and what we could do better. And in most cases, there's always a case of we could have done a little bit better. We could have been a bit more pessimistic. We could have saved a little bit more just in case. However, if our budget evaluation at the end of the year saw that, well, look at this, we've got some spare money. Now, the last time that we had a chunk of spare money was 2020, because the end of that year we'd been nowhere and we'd spent nothing due to the pandemic. And in 2021, we were playing catch up with that. Now, it might be in a year you're extraordinarily busy. You don't get as much time off work. You don't spend so much money. You're terribly busy and you didn't get those things done around the house that you'd saved for example. So you could, with your budget evaluation meeting, decide we're going to put that money on top of our long-term savings or on top of our emergency fund or add it to our emergency fund. Or you could decide to roll that over and we'll take that budget and we'll add it to our savings for next year. For example, in 2020, we didn't have any holiday. In 2021, we took quite an expensive trip to the UK, stayed in an Airbnb, and the amount of money from the 2 years were combined. So you might think to yourself, what am I going to do if I haven't spent this money? You can roll it over, you can put it into long-term savings, or you can decide to spend it on something else. Now, every single Wednesday, we sit down, we have a chat about money, about budgeting, about saving money in one way or another. And if that is interesting for you, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the little notification bell so you don't miss this. And we put out 3 videos a week. You don't want to miss those either. And we share our thrifty lives with you. If this has been useful for you, go on, give it a thumbs up. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. It just leaves me to say on behalf of Mike and I, thank you so much for watching. Come back every Wednesday, share a midweek money chat with us, and we'll see you again very soon. Goodbye for now.